Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sacred Symbols Plus, your little extra bit of Sacred Symbols every week here on Last Stand. I'm your host, Dustin, and here with me, this is a unique permutation. I don't think that's ever happened before, so it's always exciting when that happens. Here with me, of course, the co-host of Sacred Symbols, Chris Raygun. How are you today?
I'm well. I got up really early again. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening with me. I'm getting up at like 7 a.m. normally. I turned 30 a couple months ago, so maybe this is just what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like it, really. I don't like being awake this early. I don't. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable for me.
I noticed for me, well, I was starting to get up early because Holly, with her being pregnant, she just doesn't sleep past 7. So she gets up, she makes coffee, and then she falls asleep on the couch almost every day. But I'm starting to feel some of those changes. You know, I'm waking up earlier. Recently, I was watching a Dave Ramsey clip on YouTube, and I'm like, the dad energy might be beginning. Like, that's something my dad did was, and I don't even really know much about him, but I like to hear about someone that's $1 million in debt. Like, that's pretty entertaining. But here with us also for the ride, also in a beautiful blue shirt, the one and only Locke Mort. Hello, Locke. How are you?
Hello, sir. Hello. Well, normally I wasn't supposed to be here, right? Normally Maddie, who's the Fallout guy, of course, was supposed to be here, but he couldn't be here, so he sent me instead. So I'm very sorry. But Maddie gave me copious amounts of notes.
Oh.
So if I say anything you disagree with, harass Maddie. Leave me alone.
Yeah. That sounds about right. But here's the thing, Locke, I don't want you to undercut this because you are, of all of the Fallout fans I know, you are top tier. So I feel like we're not missing out at all. I mean, we're missing a little bit with Maddie because we love Maddie, but it is not a trade-off for me to have you here.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say. The sun is out, so I already look like a ghoul, so that's good. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, perfect. Locke, you're doing, I want to get this right front and center. You're doing a brand new project with Maddie about movies. Tell us about it real quick.
Well, it's called Retro Rewind. You know, we already have Retro Rebound, which is all about games from the past and our connection with it. But now we're also doing Retro Rewind, which is basically the same thing, but with movies. And the cool thing about that channel is Maddie hasn't seen any movies. Maddie knows everything about games. He doesn't know anything about movies.
Right.
So what we're doing, we're going through the IMDb top 250 lists, and we're just having Maddie spew his guts about it, and it's very interesting, very fun. We'll also have me watching anime, which is less fun, but it's also there. So yeah, it's a very cool channel. It's taking off really fast. We didn't expect it to do as well as it's doing. So we're very excited. It's very fun. Go watch it. We also have a Fallout review up there if you don't like this one.
Yeah, I was gonna say if you want more Lockmore after this, go check that out. I want to make sure we were able to shout that out. Last, certainly not least, sorry to make you wait a bit, but of course, from the realm of the Dukes, Lord Cognito, what's up, man?
What's going on? I'm crawling through the Fallout. That's the new thing right now. Good to see y'all. A unique permutation. Locke was going on. First time potting. Chris, been a while, but we did something recently, so he ain't been too long.
For sure.
No doubt, Dustin in the building. But yeah, man, this is a good group, and I'm excited to talk about this. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, dude, no problem at all. I was telling you before we started recording, during Sacred 300, I didn't get to watch you and the Lords on stage. I was kind of, I went and peeked in, and I was like, I can't stay still right now. I've got too much energy, so I was kind of pacing around. So I've been editing the show, and I got to see you and the boys, some pretty nice photos in there that pretty surprising. I like to see that, but a little tease for that, But yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys here. I guess I should have said off the top, this is our Fallout review spoiler discussion episode. We didn't even necessarily have a plan to do this. And then Chris and I were talking about it a bit on Sacred. And we're like, we both watched this. And I know that Maddie and Cog have, and Lockmore is. I'm like, we have enough people in our crew to do this, and people in our audience that would probably be interested in talking about it and hearing about it. So here we are to talk about it. So going through this, I didn't want to do a episode by episode, beat by beat. There would just be, I think that might be overload at that point. But I have some different pointers and things for us to talk about this show. But I want to get you guys first your general overall thoughts on the show, how you feel about it. What were your expectations? Did it live up to them? And Chris, I went to you first intro, so it's been the longest since we heard from you. So Chris, this Fallout TV show coming out on Amazon Prime, all the episodes, day one, it has come and gone. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I wasn't sure how to feel about this. Obviously, we're in a weird spot right now where I think we're now kind of at this weird turning point for video game adaptations where the general reputation is starting to shift a little bit. Because leading up to this, I was like, I had no faith at all, especially after being burned alive by the Halo show twice in a row, 2 times in a row. I just was like, I don't know, man. Then you have like The Witcher, which is kind of somewhat dubious, kind of started out okay, and then kind of like petered out, got rid of Henry Cavill, of course. But then you have outliers like Arcane, which is apparently very good that I refuse to watch because of that Imagine Dragons intro song. And
your group, that's your group right there.
And you got the Borderlands movie coming out that looks kind of confusing and strange, and like I don't really know what to expect of this. But then you also have The Last of Us, so it's starting to shift a little bit. And with Fallout, I wasn't really sure what to expect because it is an RPG. Like how are you gonna capture all this? I did feel initially that it, of all of the franchises that have been adapted, like it had the highest chance for success just because the vibe is so like I feel like you could capture that vibe really well, but I still wasn't entirely sure. Then I heard more about like the cast and it's like, oh, Walton Goggins is in this. That was a big boon of confidence, but I still wasn't super sure. And so it came out and I didn't binge it. I kind of watched like 2 episodes a day throughout the week just to pace myself a little bit. And I ended up really, really loving it. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's probably of the live action, specifically live action, I do want to point out, because I do think like Edge Runners and probably Arcane are probably like some of the top tier shit. Like I really loved Edge Runners specifically. But I do feel like of the live action adaptations, this is probably my favorite one. And I think the one that really nailed it the most, because I do feel like as much as people, as great as The Last of Us was, I feel like they had an easier job ahead of them because they just kind of had to beat for beat kind of, flesh out what was already there. Whereas this was more about like, how do we capture the vibe and the tone and make our own thing and have it like be almost like a companion piece to like the original games and have it stand alone as its own separate entry. I think they nailed it. I had a great time watching it. It was a lot of fun. It's not perfect television by any chance or by any means. There's some flaws and some weird things, but overall, like as an adaptation, I think it's a pretty 10 out of 10 adaptation, like in my opinion. And we can go more in depth about it.
Yeah, that's been one of the main parts of the conversation online about this show is like, is this the best adaptation of gaming yet? And we can get into that. But Cog, I'll go to you next on this because I know you and Maddie, when I was editing the episode of Duke, I don't know if I had finished watching the show yet, so I hadn't listened to what you guys said, but I know you and Maddie have talked a bit. You guys were on it, of course. I mean, you're on a show with Mr. Matty Plays. You had to. But I know you're a Fallout fan also. So what are your overall thoughts?
Yeah, kind of similar. I mean, it was one of those things I had not low expectations, but because it was Fallout, because it's live, action, there's a lot of expectation. You don't know what route they're going to take. If they're going to take the perspective of, going beat for beat for the game, or they're going to go, and make their own, character and unique world and kind of fit it in canon within the structure. So I'm like, all right. And when I saw the initial previews of it, I'm like, okay, it looks solid, it looks decent. I saw the power armor. I'm like, okay, looks cool. But you're still always worried. And then coming into it, obviously, you have the Halo TV series and, their choice on not to respect lore. And for me, it was one of those things. So I'm going to come in there with low expectation, to be honest with you. And it was one of those things. I watched the first episode. I'm like, okay, solid. Went to the next 2 or 3, and I just could not stop. The addiction happened. And for me, it's one of those things that Fallout is a very personal series in a sense for me. I'm not as hardcore as Maddie, but I always love the fact that it's this post-apocalyptic world. You got all these horrible things happening, but there's a realism to it. Like everybody in the world has this potential to push the button. And what type of world would that be? You know what I'm saying? If that happens, right? And I think they nailed it. And the other thing about Fallout that really resonates for me is obviously the humor and the tone, right? You've got that like 1950s kind of thing. So I'm getting feels because they nailing it. And then there's a part of me that's like, yo, these are the classic video game sounds. Yo, these are like, I'm hearing the radiation crackle. I'm seeing the Pit Boys. I'm seeing stim packs rattle. I'm like, okay, they're doing this. Now, obviously not perfect, but I have to agree with Chris. Like, after I sat back through all the episodes, I'm like, where do I put this? And I'm like, as far as live action, this might be the best. So yeah, I mean, I'm still resonating. There's still a lot to process. I know we'll go through more of it, but like it blew every expectation that I had. And I was just like, I could not wait. I'm like, I need more of this in my life. So yeah, good job on this one.
Yeah. Locke, what are your thoughts?
Well, I did have a little bit more faith in it before we even saw anything because it involved Jonathan Nolan.
Right.
And a lot of other people who worked on Westworld, especially season 1. And Westworld season 1, which reminds me, or Fallout reminds me a lot of, was amazing. The other seasons were, but season 1 of Westworld was amazing. So looking at the people who were involved, I did have a lot of faith in it. Like Chris said, Walton Goggins, one of my favorite actors, Justified. He's so good. I've never seen him in anything that's not
The
great.
Shield. Don't forget the Shield.
Of course, yeah, the Shield, the Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight.
Yeah, exactly. Great actor. So as soon as I read that he was involved, I was like, okay. And then a couple of months ago, I watched Yellow Jackets, which was an okay show. It wasn't that great, but there was one actress who was really awesome in it. And that was the girl who played Lucy in Fallout. So as soon as I saw that, I realized, oh, okay, they're really picking like the right actors for this project. And then Cal MacLachlan, of course, from Twin Peaks. So it started building up to having like all the right people involved. And then when I watched it, it became immediately clear that it was made by people who played the actual games and who know the games, and also by people who know how to make TV look like a movie, which is also very important these days. So I have to agree with both Chris and Cog. I thought it was, by far, to me anyway, the best adaptation I've ever seen. I like The Last of Us too, but like Chris said, I think it had a lot of the job they had to do was way easier, and I also think the changes they made in The Last of Us were less than the game. I think.
Yeah.
While Fallout was basically Fallout 5, which is amazing. They crafted a highly original story. They had multiple protagonists, which usually doesn't really work or is very hard to do, but they nailed that too. So no, I'm in love with it. I thought it was amazing. I had to watch it in one go because we wanted to put our review up on Retro Rewind right away. Normally I don't do that. I love not binging stuff because I want to think about it and I want to take notes and I want to reflect on it more. But I watched it in one go, so 8 episodes, and it flew by. I didn't expect it to be that good. So no, I really loved it. They did a phenomenal job, and I'm mostly very interested to see where it goes, which is something you want, of course, after finishing a season. So no, great job.
Yeah. For me, I think we're kind of all in the same boat where we've had some good video game adaptations, but we have decades of experience with bad ones. So it makes sense that we're still less than optimistic anytime that we see one of these. And I remember seeing the first trailer and overall being like, okay, they might be cooking here. Let's wait and see what happens. There few moments, like I remember with that first trailer, a lot of people were bothered by who we now know as Maximus in the power armor, the voice, which we can get into. But that was like, oh, what's going on here with that? And then, so yeah, I had a similar experience with Cog. That the first episode, I was like, okay, well, it's clear right off the bat they understand the world and they understand the tone of Fallout, and I think that's probably one of the hardest things to nail, where it's serious, but it also has this very quirky quality to it as well that particularly for live action, that's got to be a very fine line to walk. So you don't want to be too silly, you don't want to be too serious, and you want to make sure you balance them right so it doesn't feel awkward. And the show really picked up for me as it went on. In particular, a discussion we had on Summon Sign was about the idea of releasing the episodes individually or all at once. And I very loudly proclaimed that I hate the binging model. I was thinking a lot about, because I think it was Chris, were we on that together? Yeah, we were.
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if it was you or Brad that brought up the argument, like, well, it's probably a good idea for this, where it's unproven. They have a lot of different things to show. They're trying to branch out to a new audience. And if they have to wait in between, and maybe that first episode doesn't quite hook enough. And so while it hooked for me, ironically, my parents watched the first episode. Their one friend is a big Fallout nerd, and they had a Fallout party they went to, and you know, she made food from the Fallout cookbook and stuff like that.
That's sick.
They watched the first episode and they were like, yeah, it was okay, but we're not going to keep watching. I was like, oh, interesting.
Interesting.
So I wonder if there was a greater interest, but that, you know, from that first episode. But anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I think the show's greatest mysteries are kind of held off until episode 3 or 4. And that's when, in particular, Locke, you mentioned Westworld, reminding me of Westworld season 1, where it's like, there's some kind of cliffhanger at the end of each episode that you're like, oh shit, I have to know what happens next. And I think that's probably the strongest aspect, or one of the strongest aspects of this show for me. And then leading into the other part, which you guys touched on, is just how they were able to adapt and include so many things from the games in a way that felt natural, and for the most part weren't too much like felt like fan service moments, like, hey, remember this? You know this from the game, you know, that type of thing. So let's get into that a little bit as far as adapting Fallout the game to Fallout the show. And the one thing that I'll kick us off with, and Cog, you touching on this, was the music. How essential it was that they go and license these songs and get them in there, and also add to the catalog of songs that weren't necessarily in the games. I remember particularly episode 1 when you first see the Brotherhood of Steel and it's playing Johnny Cash. I am a huge Johnny Cash song, and it fit so nice. And that's what when I think about Fallout, like if you would have asked me about Fallout before I watched the show, because it had been a few years since I had played one, my memory of that game is always wandering around, radio on. It's like an essential core part of the experience. And so having those songs in there just really, really tied it together for me. And also being so attentive to detail in a lot of the props, the guns, you know, seeing when she's in like the junk shop and you can see the old Pip-Boys and stuff like that. So, you know, cool. The ghoul throws out the caps and stuff like that. So Chris, I'll throw this back to you. As far as like adapting the show, was there anything that stood out for you, or I don't know, any direction you kind of want to take this? Anything that lit up your mind?
I mean, I feel like my mind was lit up the whole time, and that's kind of what I felt was so special about it. It's just like, man, they're really not, because none of it feels like fan service. It just kind of feels like, oh, they know what world this is taking place in, and especially just having such a. It would be foolish of me not to assume that part of the reason why I like this so much is because I'm coming off of an adaptation of something that I care about that absolutely dropped the ball on every aspect of it. It's absolutely there, because you see like where it's like almost like you look at the Halo show and it seems like almost embarrassed to be a part of, like it's almost embarrassed of the source material. It's like, oh, we don't actually want to use that sound or use the soundtrack at all. And maybe Master Chief uses an AK-47 instead. And it's like, okay,
maybe he uses his dick.
All right, you know, maybe the armor isn't there at all. And it's like, okay, cool. Like, sick. And so like from the first episode of Fallout, just seeing everybody in these brightly colored like vault dweller suits and the Pip-Boy and is making all the right sounds, and the stim pack makes the accurate sound, and it's just like everything looks right and feels right, and the vibe is right, and the music is right out of the game, and there's no shame in it, and it's just like it's a love letter to itself, and I think that's awesome, and it kind of, I said something on Twitter a couple days ago, I can't remember exactly when, but like passion is contagious and excitement is contagious, and when you can tell these people cared about what they were doing and cared about what they were making and really loved the source material, and that kind of bleeds out from it, where you can't help but smile. Like I feel like I was smiling a lot watching this because it was just so fun to see, like, oh, ghouls and like bottle caps, and like even when they first got to that city where it's like, or that town where it's like a megaton like town, and they built it out, and it's an actual set. I was like grinning like a madman. I was like, this is so sick that they made this and that they went through the trouble to even bother doing this, because they could have not done it. A stark contrast from like, oh, hey, we're in a Covenant ship and it's all gray because purple is too distracting. You know, it's just night and day between like, and I don't know, man. There's so much about it. Even just the mimicking of VATS in that shootout in that town, where they use the slow-mo and it's kind of off kilter, like the camera's kind of off center, and the violence is so gratuitous and out of pocket and just completely unrealistic.
The ghoul has the bloody mess perk equipped during that shootout, like
for sure.
To a T.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's another thing too. It's a lot more violent than I don't know why I don't know why I didn't assume it would be, because it is Fallout and it is a gruesome like world, and you're dealing with like really heavy themes of like murder and genocide and you know, bombs exploding and mutants and all sorts of fucked up shit. I don't know why I didn't expect to see the level of violence that I saw in the show, but there's like especially in that shootout scene with the ghoul shooting everybody up, where like there's one scene where it's like it's slow-mo, like there's a bullet perfectly mimicking VATS, it goes through the guy's chest and it explodes the guy's head behind him. I'm like, this is crazy cool. Or like when Maximus is getting beat up by the power armor and he crushes that guy's head. Like, dude, this is amazing. Fucking, this is really visceral in a way that, and obviously it's TV, so like, you know, it's funny because there are moments where you could tell, like, you know, it's TV CG, it doesn't look amazing. There's like moments where like you see like, what is it, Hank when he's de-aged, it looks terrible. And like some of the rad roaches look a little bit like, okay, you know, and there's parts of it that look kind of like off or whatever, but you're having such a fun time watching it. And it's just so fun and so faithful and so giving to the viewer that it's just like, it barely matters. And I don't know, man. I had such a good time with this, and even just the way that and you can tell it's made by really good filmmakers too, because there's a lot of thought put into. I actually watched through it twice. I mean, I watched it more attentively the first time, obviously, but the second time I had it kind of on in the background. And I kept noticing things that I didn't pick up on, you know, the first time around. It's like, oh, that's like when they're in the vault in the beginning and it's being attacked by raiders, and you have like, you know, the world kind of in flames on the projector. Hank is like in the foreground, and then like as Hank is like there, the world kind of burns behind him, and it's like, that's sick. That's actually sick in retrospect when you understand what happens later. It's like, this is really like they actually cared enough to put these like really small hints of foreshadowing in there, and even something as silly as like every time the ghoul's on screen, it plays that stupid fucking fucking yodeling. It's like it's really fucking wacky because it happens I think literally every single time Walton Goggins is on screen, it plays that song, which is really silly, but it just makes you smile. And I don't know, the casting's great. I don't know, man. Everything. I really think as an adaptation, I don't know if the one thing about it that I was thinking, I was like, would this have been better animated? Like, I don't, and I was, because that's generally how I feel about most adaptations. Generally, you know, Halo I thought would have been amazing if it was animated specifically, but as I was watching, I was like, no, I really do think you have to have that like tactile grit, and you kind of have to see these things exist, and like the Pip-Boy needs to exist as like a physical object. Like I don't know if you can really do it justice animated, and I don't know if it could capture the same tone. I was like, so the fact that they nailed it in this medium specifically is really, really great. And I'm excited to see what happens from here on out. But
Yeah.
I've been talking a while.
Oh no, dude, please. Cog, let's throw this over to you. Like, I'm just trying to think of any other like particular things from Fallout shows that like made one that I could think of is when they're out. I'm trying to remember where they are, but like the thing from the junk gun like shoots the guy in the chest.
Yeah. It's like a baby's arm, right? It's like a baby's arm.
Okay, it's like a baby doll arm or something. Just and you're like, I know what that is. Which that was one where when I saw that I thought this one's for the boys. Well, or the fall, this one's for the Fallout fans. They don't necessarily explain it. And so maybe a bit ham-fisted in that, but I don't care. Like that was one of those moments I'm like, dude, I hope someone gets shot with a fucking teddy bear with this thing at some point during this show, because that's what needs to happen. But Cog, any of those types of moments for you?
Yeah, man. I have feels, bro. I have feels. I mean, every little detail, as a person who plays Fallout and scavenges a lot, I'm seeing sugar bombs and, the classic, iconic, little items that you pick up. For me, when it hit home, because Fallout 3 is my first Fallout game. And I remember playing it, and one of the places they tell you, yo, that super duper bar is crazy over there.
Yeah.
So that episode specifically hit home for me because I'm like, yo, this is what it is. This is how I felt when you went into this crazy zone with raiders and God knows what in this damn market. So that was the first thing. I think later in the like towards the later episodes, another feels moment was them actually playing the iconic theme of Fallout.
They
changed it because they couldn't. I was waiting. I was like, are they going to do it? It hit at such a perfect moment. I think it's towards like maybe episode 7 or 8, and it was amazing. Obviously, we get the iconic line, "War never changes" from Cooper's wife.
His wife. Yeah.
Exactly. So you got that. Norm was a special character for me because I liked. It's very hard to do this, the multiple character perspective thing. So I didn't really think Norm, I thought Lucy was obviously going to have a main focus. I didn't think the brother would really have much to do in this show. And he ended up becoming a character I fell in love with because he was so inquisitive. He didn't trust anything. And I liked that for the Fallout moment is him getting this hacker terminal on and the authentic terminals with the passwords. I'm like, yo, they doing it. Like, so you got that. Obviously the beginning with Lucy. Every Fallout game, the iconic opening, stepping out into the frontier of the vault, the way they do it, the way the vaults look, the little signs over each location telling you what it is, laboratory, storage, what I'm saying? Like just silly things. And I'm like, man, they nailed it. The uniforms, Nuka-Cola, like it's so many things that I'm just like, oh, I gotta get a shout out though. When they brought the scientists, and we got dog meat. We got dog meat. I'm like, okay, we're doing it. Dog meat's got a thing. And to Chris's point, I think it goes to show you, I got to give a shout out to God Howard. When you see that name, executive produce, you can tell they cared. Like you go respect the law. From what I understand, he even told them, oh no, you can't do this because we're going to save this for Fallout 5. Yep. So there were specific instructions. There was a protocol. I just wish certain other series, not to make this the Halo Bash show, but I just wish other series would really have that passion and care and respect for the lore the way they did it, because they absolutely nailed it. I could go on and on, but it's just like, man, like there were certain moments. I had to mention those specific ones because those are the ones that I'm like, man, this is it right here. They doing it. So yeah, salute to them, man. They really, really nailed it.
You made me think of, I didn't even have this in my mind when I was writing on notes, but I love the, when Lucy, I think it's either in the second episode when she is out in the wasteland for the first time and she meets basically like the meme Oblivion NPC, the guy that's like out there. And he's like, oh, you want to come live with me? I'm going to die pretty soon. Like that interaction, it's not a specific reference to anything that happens in any Fallout game that I'm aware of, but it is a reference to, it's like, yeah, this kind of shit, just this weird off the wall shit happens. Does it really matter? Not really, but that's the flavor of the world in general.
Yeah. I think he even says like, really nice of you not killing me. Or something.
Yeah.
That's so random encounter in Fallout. That's what it felt like we were playing the game. What's the next thing they're going to encounter, right? Because that's what you do when you fall. You just pick a direction you go in and you see what happens.
Locke, I have a question for you, but I want you to lead this. I know you probably have something picked out in your mind, but I have a specific question for you. So first,
sure,
the adapting from game to screen, thoughts?
Well, the moment that got me the most was when she finds the NCR flag, when she's in Vault 4 and she finds the NCR flag, and then the theme plays. And that was, well, oh, shit. Like, they actually played Fallout 1, too, because the NCR and Shady Sands, which plays a huge part in this one, is actually all from Fallout 1. That's not from New Vegas or 4. That's from 1, which is so cool to see that they really tied the whole universe together. And they actually played all the games. So, of course, Todd Howard, he deserves a lot of credit, but so does Tim Kaine, who came up with everything, which was amazing to see. And then, all the moments you guys already touched on were so fantastic. When she's cutting off the head, I think in episode 2 or 3, and the start of the next episode maybe plays from Fallout 1 too, which is like the iconic Fallout song. That really got me goosebumps. I love that so much. And also the way like Lucy evolves throughout the story. She starts off very, very happy, very golly, okie dokie, so cool. And then you see her gradually like sour throughout the game, which you can also see in Fallout a bit with certain characters who you meet later on who get out of the vault before you, and then you meet them again. And of course, the Mr. Handy, who turns out to be Codsworth, the actor. Matt Berry from the IT Crowd, so cool, awesome.
Well, that was dude. I have to shout out the casting too, because really, I didn't expect to like as many of these characters as I did. But even like in the beginning, there were some characters I was like, oh, I don't really like Maximus or Thaddeus or any of these people. And by the end of it, I was like, I like all of these people, a lot. Like these are all, and even just like the small cameo bits, like Matt Berry as Codsworth is perfect casting.
Amazing.
I think Fred Armisen as a radio guy is beyond perfect.
When I saw that, it was one of those. For a split second, it took me out because I was like, "Wait, what the fuck? That's Fred Armisen." You know, like what? Why? But then I was like, "Oh, well, this actually just works." And then you kind of just keep going.
Well, it works so well because, like, as a fan of Fred Armisen, he's such a music nerd. Like he specifically, like he has stand-up routines that are like he has like, I don't remember if it's a series, but he has like, I know at least one entire stand-up set that is like, I think it's called like Stand Up for Drummers, and it's all drum jokes, like all of it. And it's like, and he has like a drum set on stage, and like he does these bits on Conan and all these different shows where he's like, he's a huge music nerd. So to see him as the radio guy, like talking about like, oh yeah, it's all about the mids in this.
That was funny.
Perfect. It's insane. Like it took me out of it for the first time. So I was like, what the fuck? Same thing with Michael Rappaport as Night.
Oh yeah, that was great.
Yeah, he killed that.
Great. Yeah.
And
you're such a terrible squire. You suck.
This is all your fucking fault. You know that?
Yeah.
You know that? It's all your fucking fault.
Yeah, I didn't know I needed him in that role.
Yeah, it's a funny reveal because even that entire sequence with him fighting the Yao Guai and him just running and just fuck is so like that was a pretty accurate moment for the game. I think it's just like running from shit where it's like, oh shit. I've definitely been in it's like, oh wow, a fucking conglomerate of feral ghouls. Fuck, I'm going to run away. I don't have any, and even just like the big golf bags that the squires have to hold. I really love that aspect of it. Really cracked me up because it's a nice companion. It's a nice way to play on just how out of pocket your inventory can get, while also still kind of it plays. What I love about that specifically, it's like that entire joke, the whole thing with the big golf bag actually is like it's a really good emblematic example of why the show gets it, where it's like, okay, how do we make this make sense in live action where like we understand the rules and we're still staying true to the game, but we're also establishing a world that is dark and brutal but also hilarious. And I think that joke with the golf bag really kind of, that's the entire circle of the show to me, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna have this slave basically run around with this insane golf bag that he would probably die carrying in real life, but we need all this shit, and it is hilarious to see. And yeah, man, I don't know, so good.
The you mentioned the Fred Armisen part. I don't know if you guys have seen Portlandia, but there's like the sketch in it where there's like the guy that's like a music dork that has all this insane recording equipment, but he just uses it to like show off to his friends. He's like, "Yeah, this is the mic they use to record pet sounds. Is this mic here?" I was like, this is the guy. This is him, but he's in the post-apocalypse now. He made it. So, Locke, the question I specifically wanted to ask you was, because I really am unaware about this whole controversy, is there was some discussion about the lore, whether there being some retconning specifically involving New Vegas. I bypassed this completely. I saw some people complaining. Todd Howard made a statement. Can you enlighten me on this? Because I seriously, I'm like, I don't know.
Sure. Well, at the end, of course, the end shot, which is one of the coolest ending shots ever in any show or movie, we see New Vegas, right? And New Vegas looks pretty much destroyed. It's still there, but it's abandoned, apparently. Like, the lights aren't on the strip. Like, nobody's there. So people figured, like, well, New Vegas is destroyed, which could happen in the timeline. But when Lucy is in Vault 4, she finds this chalkboard, right? And on the chalkboard, it says some date. I don't exactly remember the date. I think 22, 70 something, 79, 77.
It's 2277, I think.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's when Shady Sands was destroyed, according to the chalkboard, right? But in New Vegas, which takes place, I think, in 2281, people still talk about Shady Sands like it's a real thing. Like, that's the base of the NCR. So some people on the internet figured that means that New Vegas is retcon because they talk about Shady Sands in there, but Shady Sands in the timeline is already destroyed there. But that doesn't mean that it's retcon, really, because first of all, there's this big empty space between New Vegas and California where this one takes place. And second of all, Shady Sands could have been destroyed, but Shady Sands was like the first capital of the NCR, and not like the capital. They never call it the capital. They call it the first capital. And maybe it was destroyed first, and then Hank came along, and then the bombs fell on it, or they dropped another bomb on it, and then it got completely destroyed. We just don't know yet. So people get upset because they think New Vegas is retcon, but it's obviously not. I mean, in my opinion, and Maddie talked about this too in a couple of videos, like, New Vegas people should be happy that they're getting so much recognition. Like, season 2 is obviously going to be all about New Vegas, which is amazing. Like, if we see Mr. House in Hank's flashback, or not in the flashback, but in the present day stuff, like the president of Robco, we see him. So I personally think, and Maddie thinks this too, I think, is that season 2 is going to be all about Hank going to New Vegas to check Mr. House. Is Mr. House still there? Which is going to be so cool. So I don't think, first of all, I don't think there's anything that's being retconned. And second of all, if you're a big fan of New Vegas, which I am too, everyone is, of course, be happy, man. Season 2 is going to be great for you as a New Vegas fan. Just wait and see. Like, it's not like this, it's done. It's not like it's over. It's not like this is all set. I'm pretty sure we're going to get flashbacks in season 2 to what happened in Shady Sands, to what happened with Moldaver, to what happened to House, to what happened to New Vegas, of course, because we see it kind of destroyed at the end. So just wait and see.
Yeah.
Like, it's not done yet.
They had they had too perfect of a casting for Mr. House to only use him in that that episode. Like, I think. Yeah. Because I saw that, I was like, "That's crazy." Because that just looks like the drawing, that guy.
Yeah,
but as I remember it, on the chalkboard, it said the fall of Shady Sands, 2077, and then there's an arrow afterwards that shows a bomb. So it looks like the bomb doesn't have a date, but like there's a general kind of time in 2077 where Shady Sands falls, which, to me, leaves enough ambiguity for me where I'm like, all right, we'll see how they figure that out. Maybe they did fuck something up and they're like, oh, let's figure this out. But that's always very possible. Like, people can, I don't know. There's probably like a lot of examples of things like that happening in TV shows where it's like, ooh, we didn't account for that. Okay, well, how do we make that work in the canon? And it usually works out.
That would be a big thing to fuck up, though, because they have New Vegas already in there. So I don't. I mean,
that arrow, the arrow after the year to me like indicates it's like that's not the same year. Yeah, because there would be no purpose in having. Why would you have the same event twice on this? You know, it doesn't read properly.
They also show it later when you get like Lucy's flashback with her mom outside and Moldaver is there. That is in Shady Sands, and it's still up then. So that's something.
That's a great twist, by the way. I thought. Because she mentions too, like how it's like, I used to think that was the real son.
Yeah,
and like and it's like, oh, it was. And it's like they do a really good job with that entire thing. I think Shady Sands is just it's such a pivotal part of the fall. It would be kind of like any kind of discrepancy with like Reach or something, where it's like it's such a pivotal point of this specific universe where it's like you want to treat it with care, and so people are like probably like a little bit concerned about it. It's like, and I get that to some degree. I just I just also feel like the nature of TV is to leave some mystery, and so
sure.
I'm sure they have a plan for this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Locke, what you're saying is that Fallout New Vegas fans being too sensitive? I mean, I've never heard of that happening. That's weird. That's insane.
Yeah. I've never seen that happen either. No, I get where they're coming from, of course. I think everybody can, because New Vegas is, of course, arguably one of the best ones, maybe the best. To a lot of people, it is the best one. And they think like Obsidian has this weird rivalry with Bethesda, but that's not true. Like there is no. I mean, maybe behind the scenes they're pissed off that New Vegas was so awesome, but I don't think that's true. I mean, they showed it at the end. Well, that's amazing. They could have easily just ignored it.
You're right.
So be happy. I'm happy.
The weird headcanon with that is so strange. Like it's like, oh, they're really upset that they have this really great entry in their video game franchise. It's like I highly doubt it. Like, look, I'm playing through New Vegas right now, and it's technically my first time playing through it. Like, as I started it, I started like 15 times and kept putting it down for I don't know, various reasons. I kept getting pulled away from other games or just life stuff. So like I'm playing through it now, and it's very, very good. Like it's very, very well written. I don't know if it's my favorite right now, but like it's completely solid. And like I've seen people like, because so many people are jumping into the games now because of the show, people are like, oh, everybody's starting with the wrong Fallouts, and it's like there's no.
That's ridiculous.
I would argue that I would argue that 76 is probably like the worst one to start with at all, because it's just not really
a technical Fallout game. Yeah,
it's just not. I don't know. Yeah. It's so separate, but like. Fallout, look, man, this might be controversial. I really liked Fallout 4, like sincerely. Like I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. It's probably and to be quite frank, it's probably the best game for people to jump into immediately after the show, because it's the most accessible. And if you want more of it, there's still New Vegas and 3 that are like arguably like better written. So you have more to look forward to. I don't get this weird like this New Vegas kind of like this, like it's got to be New Vegas or nothing, and it's like relax.
Well, that's also kind of new, because when New Vegas came out, it wasn't as loved as it is today. I remember when it came out, people didn't like it that much, really.
It was really buggy too. I remember that people were like, this game, good luck. Like your save's going to get busted or something on it.
Yeah. It's only when 4 came out that New Vegas got put on a pedestal and basically became the best game ever, but it wasn't always like that.
No, that's true. No, I agree. I think what it is you got the lore nerds, and everyone has a different starting point. And I think what it is they just hold that dear, and that's their interpretation of what's the best Fallout. And even, the NXL guys with the original, the Fallout 1 and 2, like a lot of people hold those dear. They want to make sure the lore is respected. And then a lot of, I feel the majority of people probably feel the series was kind of reborn and starts at like 3, because when they transformed it, the engine, and so on and so forth. So I just think it's the subsets. It's the 1 and 2, the OGs, you know what I'm saying, from NXL. You've got the Bethesda guys, and then you've got the Obsidian crowd, right? Who's like, yo, y'all gotta respect this. This, in our opinion, is the best one. But I love the fact that they got in front of it. They put out the tweet. They're like, this is the timeline, y'all. Here is where this is. No, we did not mess up. This is where it is. And I like Chris said, I think there's enough gray area left in the show for them to not write themselves in a corner or do anything silly. And I spoke to the Lord Nerds. I'm like, yeah, what do y'all say about this? Because I had to backtrack. Like, what do you think? They were like, no, the bombs dropped after. There's that cock. And certain people are being ridiculous. They did not. Everything is canon and it's fine. I'm like, okay, just want to let you know what people are saying on the internet. Some people.
Right. You brought up something. This is slightly off topic, but I wanted to ask you guys because so I wrote down some things that I was like kind of confused about. I don't know if these are either some writing issues or Dustin is dumb issues, and I'm happy to accept either one. You brought up Lucy being outside of the vault and saying she thought it was the real sun.
Mm-hmm.
Are we to believe that the Overseer and the vault in general was able to gaslight into her not remembering that she had ever been outside of the vault? That's one of the things where I'm like, how do you not remember? Because, she was young, but like, if you lived, let's say, how old was she? Like 8? Before that even? Let's say 5.
She was 6.
She was 6, says, okay.
Yeah, she says she was 6. So.
I just feel like if I lived my entire first 6 years of existence in a confined space and then was out in this totally wild new place and then went back, like I would remember that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
6 is still very young, though, because I saw that comment a lot. They also have in the vault, they have like these simulation walls. Like when she gets married, they make it seem like the outside. So maybe they just gaslit her into thinking that was it. That's what she really thinks too, right? Like, because she outright says it, that she was outside, but then people told her, no, you're mistaken, you were inside. So maybe she does remember, but people,
the vault is also just gaslight central. Like literally, the whole time, like even when they're like when they what is it, when the Raiders attacked or whatever, and Norm ventured into the other vault and saw all that devastation, and then it's like, oh, it's actually perfectly fine here. Actually, it's like nothing happened at all. Look, here's the toaster that guy killed himself with, and it's totally nothing suspicious about it. Yeah, I don't know. What were you gonna say?
Well, I was gonna say that whole the fact that it's like, okay, so they were able to repair and clean and get that vault ready in less than 24 hours. How? Who did it? Was it the lady that's the Overseer? Because there's when I was watching, I was like, oh, that's the guys in the other vault. But then you find out that they're all in cryo sleep and there's just a fucking a Roomba brain hanging out. So how was that vault fully repaired and cleaned up?
Right.
In less than 24 hours.
That was just to jump in. That was my only nitpick with the show. As far as I do agree with you in the sense that I felt there were too many nick of time, a little bit of convenient moment. Like someone comes to save the day at the right moment, or the vault gets cleaned right at the neck, you know what I'm saying, right before. And then like, so I attributed that to like video game nonsense, you know what I'm saying? But I understand what you're saying, like, because I thought that to myself too, Dustin. I was just like, yeah, like he made this huge discovery, and then we do know obviously that 31 had housed the Overseers, and she's part of the list, and obviously was Hank, the father was part of the list, kind of thing. So I want to know how were they able to get that done so quickly and conveniently to get the story moving, so to speak.
The Blood Girl was also there. So there's 2 of them at least. Yes. Not that makes it better, but
there
were 2 of them.
I don't know. The thing for me is like as I was watching it, I never got like a sense of exactly how much time was passing between.
Lucy mentions,
you know what I mean?
She mentions this at some point. At some point near the end, she mentions that she's been outside for 2 weeks. Like somewhere near the end, I think the final episode maybe, that she's only been outside for 2 weeks. So the whole show takes place in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Right. So, and there's the woman who's pregnant that you can tell like later she's like icing down her crotch because she gave birth recently. So it couldn't have been that long, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think my assumption was it was still kind of haphazard anyway, because like they didn't like didn't really replace anything. They still kind of like, even the paint is still, it's still on the and nobody's really going to question, because everybody's like assuming that like, oh well, they still assume it's a raider attack and not like a bunch of like vault dwellers and like with like a bunch of blood like written on the walls, like we know what's in there, so I guess their assumption is like, yeah, we'll throw this together kind of haphazardly and not everybody's gonna feel too weird about it. But yeah, that's probably a bit of a contrivance. Like I said, it's not a perfectly written show by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it's fucking wacky as hell that the Ghouls theme song shows up every time every time he's on screen, and like little things like that. But I can't deny, man, it is just fun to see like Norm and Chet. I love them like as a duo. Amazing. I think it's so fun. Like even though it's like that reversal of roles where like the small guy is kind of like the more like, all right, well, what's going on here? And he's like more inquisitive. He's gonna go, and then the big brute, the big guy's like kind of like cowardly.
Yes,
it's like it's like a really fun.
I love that dynamic. Yes,
it's a really fun twist on the dynamic, and like Moises Arias does like a really good job, just in that role, which is so funny because I haven't seen him in forever. Like I remember him. I know he was on Hannah Montana when I was a kid because I would see commercials for it on TV, and I recognized him from that. But I was like, oh my god, it's been forever since I've seen this guy. And I thought it also
really hit when he called him a coward. That also really hit for me.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a pretty hard.
Yeah, we're all cowards. Insult. We live in a vault. He became kind of the unofficial fourth main character, really, to me.
Yes, absolutely.
Because Lucy's great. I really love her. I like how she's played. I like that she's got these like Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite eyes that like kind of make you like immediately like empathize. I like that she's like naive, and I like that even though she changes throughout the course of the show, and like by the time she gets to the end, she's kind of acclimated to the wasteland, but she's still very much like, you know what? I'm not going to hide a grenade in this head and blow you up, and I'm not going to shoot my dad in the head, because that would have been like fucking. Yeah. I like that she's like, I like that she's consistent. Even though she evolves, the Ghoul's great, and Maximus I started off not really liking because I couldn't really tell what the fuck his deal was, and then by the end I was like, this is fascinating. But then Norm just kind of a standout, because by the end I was like, whoa, I'm really fucking interested in this.
Yeah,
what's going on here with this guy?
Yeah. While we're talking about some characters, I feel like someone who we haven't talked about too extensively, and I think my favorite character of the show is the Ghoul, or also Cooper Howard. And he's such a awesome character, and the way that he is the way for them to get into the past and show the backstory.
The pre-war.
I think is one of the coolest parts. And the main question and that I just still have about him in a good way is that we see him in the current day. He's the ruthless gunslinger. He sells Lucy off for her organs, shit like that, making her drink the disgusting water, stuff like that.
Classic.
But we see like how like there's this total opposite side of who he was pre-war, where he's like this movie star that cares about how his character is portrayed in the film. He's like, I don't think this is right. It's not the right thing to do. How he begins to uncover the mystery about Vault-Tec, which we could talk about Vault-Tec too quite a bit, because I think that's one of the most interesting parts as well. But
big revelations with that.
He's Vault Boy too.
He is Vault Boy. Yeah,
that was really cool. I because at the end of like one of the episodes, he shoots like a hole in like a Vault Boy billboard, and you're like, what the fuck?
You're like, what's that about? Yeah.
I remember like the first time I watched it, I was like, that's fucking dumb. Like, what is that's so stupid? And then it's just like, oh, okay, that's really cool lore. I love that.
Yeah. The thing that I still love that is still to uncover is that we've got some insight on who he was before and who he is now. But the number one maybe not the number one, but like episode 1, you see him as the bombs drop. He's doing the show at the kid's birthday party. They see the bombs go and you see them start to run away. we have no idea what happens in between after that point and to who he is now and what kind of shit happened to him. We know he's looking for his family, and there's, I don't want to say assumption, but you can presume that his wife is in the vault, in cryosleep, maybe his daughter as well. But it's like, okay, well, how did he survive? How did his daughter survive? Was he in the vault too for a time and then got out?
His daughter didn't survive because when the bombs drop, he has her on his back, right? Unless he loses her.
We don't know. Well, that's the thing.
He always
is
saying, "Where's my family?"
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
He says, "Where's my family?" So like, there's a big gap in between, like when he's riding off on the horse and when we catch up with him, when he's like taken out of that coffin, which was awesome, by the way.
Cool.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
Man, I that is one of the most. I'm really fascinated by how they're going to bridge that together, because like it does kind of, there is an inherent spoiling aspect of that where it's like he's looking for his family, so obviously they're around. It's kind of like the Fallout 4 situation where it's like, oh, my son got stolen from me, but I woke up however many years later. Who the fuck knows if my son's still around? It's like, he is. Spoiler alert, he is. And because why would they even bother doing that? So obviously his family's around somewhere. The big question I have really is Moldaver. Like, how the fuck did she serve? Like, what's her? Like, how is she still around?
I wrote that down as well, because the thing that she presumably, she talks about being part of the companies that were bought out by Vault-Tec that invented cold fusion, and I'm like, okay, so was she considered essential by Vault-Tec, that they're like, okay, we're going to need the person that knows this tech in the future, and so she was still undercover when the bombs fell, and so that's how she was able to survive. But I don't know, what do you think, Locke?
Well, there's also something that a lot of people forget, but this is post Fallout 4, so synths are a thing. So I think at some point,
that's a great
someone is going to turn out to be a synth too. Maximus.
Do we not see a synth? I feel like we saw a synth briefly in Vault 4, or was I mistaken? Because I swear to God, there's a character with like a face that looks stitched on. Their eyes are glowing blue, and I'm like, is that a fucking synth?
Well, like they're all like all the people in Vault 4 are like mutants, right? Like they all have these, So it's possible.
I just remember saying it's like, that's maybe I'm misremembering what synths look like, but that's fucking weird. But I think Moldaver is probably like, they're definitely going to do more with her. They're definitely going to. That's what really has me stoked about the show in a way that like the game doesn't. Like, obviously, I like Fallout a lot. I had a great time with Fallout 4. I liked 3, and I'm liking New Vegas as well. But it is really fucking cool being able to see before, what's going on before all of this happens. Like, what is the pre-war story? Like, how does all this, like, what is Vault-Tec like in its prime? Like, see, even just something as simple as like seeing all of this technology that we're so used to in the Fallout games being used in like a really mundane setting, like the Mr. Handy actually being on like a movie set and actually like doing things, and people using their Pip-Boys to like just send messages to each other in like a normal way. It's really, it opens up an entirely new dimension to Fallout that like you really couldn't do in a Fallout game that was not an RPG, which nobody really wants. Like, I don't want a linear fucking narrative based Fallout game. Like, it's not really what I want, but this is kind of what this functions as. And it's super fucking cool. So I think we're definitely going to see like what happens next season with his daughter and Moldaver, and get some, even Mr. House would be great. Yeah. I'm rooting for more Mr. House. I really, for his brief moment in time, like talking in that meeting, like I loved it.
Yeah,
the way he's like putting out his cigar and he's like so smug. He's like leaning back in his chair. I was like, I love this guy.
Well, you bring up that meeting. It's a good time to talk about. I mentioned Vault-Tec in general, and that was, I'm not like a super Fallout lore nerd. At some point in my life, when it like probably when 4 and 3, when I was playing those, I knew a lot more. Some of it I've forgotten, but I always knew Vault-Tec was not really good. Of course, that's like part of the big thing, that the experiments they've conducted and all the crazy shit. But this show really took it up a notch when there's I was going to say the implication, but not really, that their intent is to drop the bomb first. And so this is for sure adding to the lore, and Locke, you can correct me, but it's always been a big question about who dropped the first bombs, right?
Well, it still is. Like
right, it still is, but their intent at least.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, true.
Yeah. So to see them I guess, not even just in that meeting, but this idea of the war machine needing to be fed, that they are maybe more powerful than U.S. government. And that's one of those things that I guess say lightly, because I don't want to get political in any way, but there's this idea of like the military industrial complex and how companies fit into that. And Vault-Tec is kind of this weird middle ground where it's like they're not a weapons company, but they're clearly invested in the end of the world. And they also, ironically, I don't know if you guys thought this, I'm like, man, Vault-Tec has like an Amazon feel to me.
Yeah.
Like they feel like this like all-encompassing company. And it's so ironic the show is on Amazon Prime. So
it is funny, yeah.
Jeff Bezos, absolutely. If nuclear war seemed like it was totally going to happen, he'd sell you a vault. I mean, he absolutely would. Would he experiment on you? I don't know.
Yeah,
but
that's different. But I do think, yeah, man, that implication is huge. Because as far as I know, it's always been implied that Vault-Tec had an interest in staving off talks of peace, because obviously, like, they're selling vaults. They want there to at least be a perpetual state of fear. Like, will it happen? Will it not? Like, at the very least, opening up the question so that there's a reasonable doubt that the world will continue, so that people will invest in more vaults. And they even talk about, like, even early in the season, and I noticed this a lot more when I watched it through the second time, even at Cooper Howard's party, at his house, at the rep party, there's like people talking about, like, it's like, yeah, these peace talks are probably like a problem. We're going to have to talk with whoever at corporate or whatever. And you hear these like little snippets of conversations. But like the implication is like, oh, we'll drop the bomb ourselves if we need to, is pretty fucking wild. And I know people are saying like, oh, well, they did drop the bomb then. It's like, no, that's still very an open question. We know that they have the intent, and we know that they are willing to do it. Right. But I almost feel like it's still a pretty open question, where it's like, even because there's probably people who are at Vault-Tec who are fucking like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and it was his own wife.
Know. Yeah,
his own wife proposed it too, which was the worst part to him. It was he thought that she was going to fight against it, but she was the one who proposed it.
You got the one never change his line at that moment. I agree. I think that whole thread from the Ghoul's perspective, getting his backstory, seeing how he got there, then leading into Vault-Tec, and then all the powerful. So it gave me that whole Illuminati vibe, and I thought they kind of nailed it. You know what I'm saying? Like, powers that be, what's really controlling. And I love the fact that Moldaver challenged him in a sense, like, okay, you think, okay. And he finally broke, and he put the receiver, and he's like, all right, I want to hear, and I want to see if she's going to fight. And to hear that chilling reveal, like you said, where it's like, oh, she's all the way in. Like, this is what's going on. I thought that was great. Then the tie-in, obviously, to Hank. Obviously, we did find out the younger version of him, meeting, obviously, Cooper and stuff like that. So, yeah, I thought that the show had so many good threads, but the way they used the Ghoul to tie that all in and then move that forward was great. And I absolutely loved that part, because it was kind of chilling. And then when you see my man from New Vegas, and I'm like, you see that Illuminati circle turn, it was dope. I was like, I love what it is. But to your point, Chris, like, it is, you could hint it is, you may think it is, but it's not inherently implied that they did it. But we do know it's their best interest, like what Locke was saying. That they would benefit, if with these vaults, if war did happen. So it was a fun thread, but I really enjoyed that part a lot.
One thing I do want to point out quickly before we move on is I love it's a really small aspect, but one that I picked up on the second time through, especially. Like, I love that a big instigating factor in Cooper's suspicion is no dogs in the vaults.
Yeah.
I love that was like a breaking point for him, where he was like, who the fuck
says who?
Who says who? Like, he loves his dog so much that it's like, wait, huh? Why? What is this bullshit? And then like
Yeah.
he's even saying it like when he's like feeling guilty about like spying on his wife, he's like, nah, he throws it away. And then like at the end of the day, he's like thinking about it, and he rummages through the garbage. He goes like, no dogs in the vaults. I love that, not just as like just as characterization for him, but also just as kind of like a through line to the player too, where it's like, dude, dog meat,
video game.
Dog meat is the companion really for that game, in my opinion.
It's also
yeah. No, go ahead.
He was also using their power armor during the war. Like he talks about it, right? To Atkins, and he knows there's the flaw in the power armor. That's how he's able to shoot them down.
That's right.
In the last episode. So I think he was already kind of suspicious of them because he knows how they work. Like he knows how they operate.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I just love that that's such a focal point for his reasoning for going back, where it's like, this is my, because the dog is mentioned a lot. Like I didn't notice it the first time, but like his first dog is like he makes it at the party. He makes an effort to be like, you know, like, oh, I'm sorry, you can't come down. And as he's going down the stairs, like there's a big poster of like a movie he did, like a man and his dog, and like people are like talking about like people are talking about it, and he goes like, yeah, that was actually my real dog.
Yes,
as he's walking away, and like there's a big emphasis on his relationship with his dog, and I love that that's the thing that at the very least is like maybe not the whole reason why he's suspicious, but the thing that kind of like pushes him to the point where it's like, you know what? I think I will spy on my wife because my dog is more important in some way. I love it.
That's so cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
And I didn't notice that the first time.
Cooper knowing how to take out the power armor, so he takes out a whole room full of them. But he didn't remember how to take out the power armor in Philly with Maximus. And he just chose not to kill him, I guess, in that moment. Just saying, you know.
He did though. He cut the oxygen, or not the oxygen, like the
battery. He disabled him.
He didn't blow his heart out. There's moments like that. There's also another moment where like I mean, there's a lot of things in here that are like, you know, it's main character kind of plot armor.
Yeah,
that's where it's like, you know, why is like Lucy wakes up right before she's about to get her organs harvested, and no one has ever been able to fight off a Mr. Handy before. It's like, what's going on there? Yeah. There's a moment too where like she lights a fire at night, and then Wilzig shows up, and he's like, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah,
you'll get fucked up. And then she does it again later, and it's not a problem. So there's some things you could explain certain things away where it's like the ghoul's like, okay, well, this is one guy in power armor. I'm gonna have my fun with him. I'm gonna toy with him a little bit. Like there's enough characterization in there where it's like, yeah, maybe that's possible. The Mr. Handy thing's a little bit more like my every time something happens in this universe where like I don't fully understand it, I kind of try to in my own mind, I'm like, all right, well, is everybody just irradiated to the point where like, like I thought that when Lucy went into when she was getting her organs harvested and she went up to those guys and it's like, let everybody out. Right. And, they were like, they let everybody out. And it's like, oh no, let her go, let the feral ones go too. And they're like, no. And then she threatens them, and then they do it anyway. But it's like, why would they? Like, why would they do that? True. That didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But my assumption is like, look, their fucking brains are cooked from being in a radiated wasteland. Fucking why not?
Yeah, they're just hanging out doing Psycho all day, you know, watching TV.
They also are drug addicts.
Drug addicts hanging out.
There's also the question, why didn't Hank recognize that the people from Vault 32 weren't the people from Vault 32? Because he's like the overseer. He should know who's in there.
Vault 32? Wait, what do you mean?
Well, at the start, when Lucy gets married, right, they bring like a whole delegation from Vault 32, Vault 32, which are all new people. Like he doesn't know who they are. So that should tell him like these are raiders, because he should know who they are, of course, because he orchestrates.
My assumption, I guess my assumption was, did he not? Yeah, I don't know. I should have paid more attention to Hank's. My assumption was that he knew that that happened already, but like maybe I'm wrong.
Oh,
because like his whole thing was like he's trying to maintain control of the vault, and now there's a reason to get new people into that other vault. now there's like, you know what I mean? Like I felt like there
Mhm.
was like some motivation there, but like I didn't. Maybe I got to watch it again, or at least those
I've
first two
been-
episodes.
Yeah, I've been having a discussion with Locke over the past week that I hit it a little bit at the beginning of the episode that just because I didn't want to start negative and I didn't want people to immediately hate me because that's what happened on Twitter. I think this show has a lot of writing issues. So I've kind of peppered them in a little bit. But Locke, you just brought up what I think is the biggest writing blunder in this entire show. And that is that episode 1. And you don't realize it the first time you watch it. But there are so many questions that there are things in the show, or just shows in general, where it's like, it's, video game logic. It's a video game show. I can apply that. The whole situation with Moldaver in where she is the pretending to be the overseer, which, by the way, why the fuck doesn't he remember her? Why?
Because she wore glasses in the past.
Oh, so it's fucking Spider or Superman situation here.
I asked myself the same thing. So I look back at her flashbacks on YouTube, and she's wearing glasses in all of them. So I figured, okay, that's just. I guess we're supposed to believe that changed her enough that he doesn't remember her.
I went back and watched this where they first enter the vault. She literally addresses herself as by her first name. She doesn't use a fake name. She's like, I'm Overseer Moldaver.
Yeah, but she's not called Moldaver in the past. She's called something else. I don't forget. I don't remember her name, but she's called somebody else in the past.
But
like
he
Williams.
went and left the vault to get his daughter and son back.
Yeah, you're right.
So why doesn't he remember her? He her ability. And also, it extends past that. Also, where it is shown that the overseers between the 3 vaults have some kind of communication with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
The overseer of that vault, the other vault, has been dead for 2 years. And he doesn't know about it. Okay, so then you could make the argument that maybe she was playing a long con, which I'm not saying they're like chatting on AIM every night over their Pip-Boy or something, but did she have some kind of long con situation with them where she was acting as the dead overseer for who knows how long?
Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, how did they infiltrate, and how was they to get past Hank on that? Because there's still a lot of questions. Even obviously how she survived. Into the current time. So I get you there. There's a lot of questions there for sure.
The last question I'll bring up about this, and then I'll quit being the annoying guy, the Redditor on this conversation. But I don't know how I'm supposed to take Moldaver as a character, because in episode 1 she brings in feral raiders and practically was ready to kill everyone in that vault. And I get it. The overseer nuked her town, presumably, which we didn't even get into that whole topic about vault tech having weapons to some degree, which I'm okay with that. That can be explained later. But later, she's like trying to save the wasteland. I guess now that I say it out loud, like maybe she just has this view that like vault tech people are evil and cannot be the ones to redeem the wasteland. So she has no problem killing everybody in the vault. But it feels a little strange to me how she is initially presented as like a totally ruthless, horrible person, and then later she has this like kind of clean and tidy base with people that are farming and stuff. It's like, okay, did you like hire these psychopath raiders to come in and do this? Maybe, but I think I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like a similar kind of thing that's going on with Hank, right? Where it's like he's like a kind of like a well-to-do, kind of a happy-go-lucky guy in the vault or whatever, and he's like very, very, nice. But meanwhile, and even at the end of the show, he's like, she's the same as me. Like we're the same. Yeah. We're just doing what we need to do to protect our people, literally. Like that's what the wasteland is. And I wouldn't be surprised if like at a certain point, like maybe Hank is the big bad for next season, but like I wouldn't be surprised if like there's a lot more gray to him also, because like you can't cast an actor like that and just have him play like I'm a fucking bad guy. It's like, no, he's like, they're definitely going to explore a lot of the gray areas, I think, between him and Moldaver next season too, because it's just like, this is a gray place. This is not there's no, even on we didn't mention it, but that scene on the bridge, I love that scene on the bridge where they're like They're like, put your
Skill
hands
check.
up. Take you know,
persuasion check.
Persuasion check, and it's just like this is a terrible place, and so like people are going to do really, really horrible things, and I'm sure like obviously Lucy's deeply betrayed, but it wouldn't surprise me if they also kind of find some way to like make that justifiable too, at least from his actions in the next season, seeing more from where he comes from. It's like I don't know, man. I would say there are writing problems. Some of them I can feel like, all right, well, I don't know, I could explain that away with like either like maybe they haven't explained that yet, or it's a character kind of thing. It's like that's how I interpreted him knowing the flaw in the power armor and still toying with Maximus, where it's like, this is the ghouls having fun.
Yeah, I'm not hung up on that one.
But yeah, no, there are bigger questions where I'm like, well, could they explain that? It's like, yeah, maybe. We'll see. There's the thing for me, it's like there's always going to be writing issues in like Breaking Bad's a great example where it's like there's so I love Breaking Bad deeply, dude. Like that's probably my favorite drama I think ever. But like there's certain books like why is this random chemistry teacher better at being a fucking like why is he a better cartel leader than every single other person who has ever existed in the cartel? Like it makes it doesn't really make sense at all. Or like how he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna MacGyver an auto turret. You know, like there's stuff that's just like there is a rule of cool to some degree in shows where the writing is good enough or like the presentation is fun enough and the story is engaging enough where it's like you're kind of okay. Yeah, I'll let that slide because this is fun to see. And I feel like that's a lot of what the writing issues in Fallout are. Like, why did Lucy wake up before the Mr. Handy was able to cut her up? Well, it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I agree that it is a problem. I would like to see those things tidied up a little bit, or at least like a little bit more believability to certain things. Like my whole thing with the psycho guys who were harvesting organs. I feel like there would have been a way to play up the comedy and the naivete and the intensity of the situation if Lucy had threatened to kill one of them, didn't intend to do it, but then like maybe fired and accidentally hit one of them in the head and sent everybody into a panic. And she's apologizing. Then the other guy's like, oh my God, I don't want to die. And so he sends everybody free. That would have at least been a little bit more urgent, tied into some of the dark comedy of the show, and then still allowed the feral ghouls to come out. Like there's some tidy. It could have used like maybe another pass or something. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, how do we maybe like iron some of these crinkles out?
Yeah, slight plot armor, slight.
Yeah, a total plot armor. Yeah, but at the same time, it's like that's what Fallout is. Like how are you even alive 200 years later after radiation poisoning? Like the whole show is plot armor to something. Like, oh, this one radio station got like if you really think about it, every single character in the show, even if they're not a main character, has plot armor because they're just like, why is this one radio guy able to survive in this place where he's like harassing people with horrible music that nobody likes just because he's one guy in a small place with like some booby traps? Like it's fucking silly.
Even Thaddeus at the end when he gets hit by the arrow, I thought he was dead, but then it turns out he's a ghoul now. So
because of the mysterious serum,
the weird guy, the weird doctor.
A weird doctor who I love turns out to have serums that actually do what he says they do. I love that through line of having this guy who's like established early on to be like a degenerate chicken fucker.
Yeah.
Literally. By the way, I laughed out loud when I heard that because I was like, oh my God, what a sacred moment fucking that chicken. But like, yeah, like he's just constantly like shown to be this like insane person. And then like, oh yeah, here's a serum that actually does completely heal your foot, and we won't explain it.
Well, that serum is the thing that turned him into a ghoul. I think at least.
Oh, I think so too. Like, yeah. That's because that's beyond radiation. That's like crazy. But yeah,
I would say that my point overall is just that Lucy waking up before being chopped up by Mr. Handy. Lucy happening to find Maximus when he's stuck in the power armor.
I was just about to say that. Yep.
That stuff honestly doesn't really bother me because I get it. It doesn't really make sense, but it moves things along. The ones that trip me up are like if you actually think about the logic of this, like them taking over the vault, it really doesn't make sense. It's not really it just doesn't make sense.
You need more
but
information.
You're kind of
for
obscured by it, and it's like, okay, it only really comes together when you think about it. When you have all the pieces later, you're like, because there's other stuff too where she's like, she has the bomb, and she's like, oh, you got to pick Lucy or them, and it was like this real big climactic moment, and then no one dies from it. It was like, what was the point of that? Other than it just made it feel suspenseful for a few minutes, and then whatever. You bring up Maximus again. I'm really curious what you guys think about the character Maximus, because I'm so conflicted about him as a character. I kind of feel like on paper, he is one of the most interesting characters in the story, being raised by the Brotherhood of Steel. He has this connection to the, is it Shady Sands, right? Yeah. Shady Sands, and has this whole like not mistaken identity, but like secret identity of like he's not actually the Knight. And I don't know whether it's like the directing or the writing or a little bit of both, that I feel like he kind of comes off as like an idiot a lot of the show. And I think that even sometimes the cinematography doesn't do him any favors, because especially early on when he's first in the power armor, I noticed that there were a lot of times that I wonder when they were editing or making the show, they were like, well, the audience can't see him in the suit, so we need to cut and do these Tony Stark Iron Man shots. But we don't really have anything for him to say. So he just kind of like the way that they pace in these shots where he's like, huh, like, like just kind of like smiling, like he feels weird to me. And in a way that I kind of felt, because I'm like, he has such interesting potential, but I don't love this character, but I like want to. Was it just me?
He's strange. I didn't like him until until the when they got into the vault, and when he's like when he's in the robe and he's eating his popcorn and he's like smiling and he's going around, it's like he's eating the caviar and he's like, what is this? Like he plays it. At first I was really off put by how he played it, because like you could never really tell like what it is that he feels very unpredictable, and he's like very difficult to read. And at first I thought that was like, maybe it's like, oh, maybe he's not a good actor, but like, no, like it feels kind of intentional, where it's like almost like I almost feel like him and Lucy are like mirror opposites, where it's like they're both kind of naive in different ways, where it's like one was raised by the Brotherhood of Steel in this like weird cult to the point where he like doesn't know that it's normal to have an erection, which I thought was hilarious. So he's got this weird naivete, but he's still like, he's an expert. Like he understands, like on the bridge, it's like they're armed. You know what I mean? Like meanwhile, Lucy's like, no, let's just talk it through. But she knows what she knows what basic human functions are. So like they feel like very diametrically opposed, where it's like Lucy wears her emotions on her sleeve. She's very honest and upfront. And it feels like Maximus is kind of always constantly hiding himself. And I feel like it only really comes out when he's in the vault and he's finally able to relax, and you actually get to see that character for the first time, where he's like just like excited, just it's like, what is this? Oh my god, a hot shower, huh? And then once he's out of the vault, you could even see it like where he's like a little, like he's still kind of hiding things, but he's like a little bit more relaxed than he was before, and he's a little bit more receptive. And yeah, there's something about Maximus that I didn't like in the beginning either, but like he grew on me after a while, especially just because he is kind of, there is a comedic relief aspect to his character. I love when he's coming through with the power armor and he's like, let her go.
Yeah, that was so fun. Beats the shit out of them.
Yeah, and that entire section with the vault too, like it made me laugh because it felt like one of those things where it's like, we don't really have it worked for the show, but it also kind of felt like we don't really have an idea what to do with these guys, so let's just make them nice in some way. Like,
wasn't it kind of to show you once again how evil Voltec is?
Yeah. I think so for sure. Yeah, because the even the mutants who come and take the vault over are like just kind and fucking weird, even though they're weird and disturbing. I love Chris Parnell, by the way, as the Cyclops. I forgot to shout that out. Very, very weird,
hilarious.
Yeah, I like Chris Parnell. But like, yeah, even when they bring the scimitar up and then they So it was very silly. It's like we're sentencing you to death, to life on the surface, and it's like,
He was like, don't go to floor, whatever you do.
yeah. That's what them too. It's like they're so upfront and so nice to each other that they're like, yeah, just don't go to respect our rules. Just don't go to don't go to the 12th floor. And does it make sense that door's not locked? No, but like that door should be locked in all seriousness. But yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, it's Maximus is an interesting. He's probably of the main characters, he's my least favorite, but I did come around to liking him at the end, especially like given like what they're kind of hinting at with like where they end off with his character, where the Brotherhood of Steel assumes that he has killed Moldaver, and they're kind of elevating him to this status where like now he's presumably in a position of authority.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to see what that. Because we're shown throughout the show that he's a very morally.
That's where I was going with it. Yep, that's where I was going.
The second Thaddeus is like, "Oh, they're gonna kill you for this." It's like, I shouldn't have told you, and he's like straight up is going to kill Thaddeus, and even like he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna steal this power core because fuck these people." It's Lucy that kind of like convinces him to not do that. So like, there's a darkness in that character that exists alongside his naivete and the humor and the comedy of it, that I'm really fascinated to see fleshed out in the future. Him and Norm, I think, are the people that I'm most excited. I like the Ghoul and I like Lucy, and I presume that I will continue to like them. But Norm and Maximus are the people that I'm really, really fucking curious about going forward with the story.
Mm-hmm. Maximus and Lucy are almost like two different types of Fallout players. You know, there's the one person like me, totally. When I always play Fallout, I always have to be nice and like, oh, I'll help you. And try to like de-escalate situations. And then there's the guy that's like, fuck these, I'm stealing their entire power source. I don't give a fuck, you know. Or, oh, this side quest isn't going my way, so I'm just gonna kill this guy. That's kind of
literally. Yeah,
literally that dude.
He's an embodiment, and I do like how he is just like obsessed with the power armor.
Yeah,
how he's a Brotherhood of Steel character that's just like, I just want the armor, man.
Yeah,
I'm the same way. Like, I didn't know how to take him at first. I was like, I don't know if I'm really feeling him at first. And I think, it's just kind of what you said, Chris, in the sense that it's this morally gray character. But where I started to like the character is I'm like, okay, if you're in this world, you're being treated like the worst. Yeah. Then you get a moment to steal this armor from someone that you are their squire, and the minute the drama happened, this man is I'm out of here. So he does the unthinkable, which is like, yo, I'm gonna let you die out, and I'm gonna take that. You know what I'm saying? So that was the first thing, and then even actually before that, not getting selected.
Yeah,
and you see the jealousy, you see the hate, and then now, Locke, I gotta ask you, did they explicitly confirm he did that to old girl, right? Like
because at the end they say that they did it themselves, like they admit it at the end. But throughout the whole show, I thought he actually did it, and I think they did that on purpose.
Right?
I think they made him that way on purpose to the viewer, to us, to make it seem right from the get-go that he's not a good guy. Right. And then maybe we gradually warm up to him. And near the end, or at the very end, we realize, oh, it wasn't him. He can be a good guy.
Right. So you got that. And then, again, to me, the other scenes is obviously, him in the power armor. Now he's acclimating. He's trying to, play a superhero role, so to speak. Thaddeus comes. He makes Thaddeus his squire. He gets to boss him around. But then he starts to ask Thaddeus these, like, questions. Well, how did you feel about Maximus, whatever? Oh, he was all right. He was cool. And then he has that moment of weakness where he wants to now befriend him and reveal, like, yo, it's me, homie. Like, and then that goes horribly wrong, right? But then the other scene was what Chris said, which is, to me, where I really started to like him a little bit was in Vault 4, whatever Vault that was. Yeah. Because that was the real moment of weakness. Like, we've never had showers. I've never had caviar. I am living in this really secluded, protected life that is amazing. I don't know if I want to go back to the service. Because when they both go into that vault, they had opposite intentions. He was like, I don't trust these people. We need to go. She's like, no, these are our friends. They're great.
Yeah.
You're gonna love it. And the role
And then it
reversal flipped because as soon as she found out what they were doing and what was going on, and this is the other thing. I was concerned that he may betray and want to stay. You know what I'm saying? And he still was conflicted even on the way out, right? Even on the way out, even with the power. So he, again, weird character at first, started to grow to like him. My only issue, I will give you, Dustin, is that even though I thought it was absolutely hilarious how sexually awkward he is, I had literal laugh. He's like, "Are you ready for the cock to explode now? Let's go." Like that part, I was like, "This show is wild." Like they had that, and then your man earlier with what's his name, Noah, with the incest going on. I said, "This show, they're doing this."
Oh yeah, when they, I totally forgot to in the first episode where they're like, "Wow, I'm really excited for after 5 years of cousin stuff." I was like, "Oh my god!" It's so
like, yeah. This is when this show. I was like, okay, they're taking it there. So for me. Now we fast forward. The only thing I'm like, okay, maybe they sped up the romance a little bit too quick with those two. That was the only. I don't know if that was all the way earned a little bit.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? As far as just maybe just horniness, yes. But
I agree. I would agree if it was like a normal world, I think. But like I kind of felt the same way. But then I kind of also was like, this is a world where like they're like Lucy is like used to. She was ready to marry a complete stranger because this is the world. You know what I mean? So like
true.
From her perspective, it's like, oh, here's a stranger that I've met that I get along with who is not related to me. Why not? I don't feel like there's like the same level of importance on relationships. Like I don't even think we see a couple throughout the entirety. I guess like really only those psychos on the bridge, really. Maybe, and that's implied. So I could see like. It was a little quick, but also like I can imagine. I wouldn't be surprised to see it that quick. In
based on that,
it's true.
Yeah. It did feel a little bit too. Although at the same time, I love that scene of them kissing, and then it shows the heads.
Yeah,
they're carrying. That's like there's a dark that comedy.
Yeah,
that dark comedy. Even in that moment, was like they took this moment that I would have like rolled my eyes at because it's like, okay, wow, they love each other, cool, whatever. And they made me laugh.
Yes,
with that pan down to the two disfigured heads. And I was like, damn it, they got it. Yeah, they know how to do this.
The laugh out loud, but my final thought with him was just pretty much, I just want to see where they go with him because now he's clearly ending in this position of authority. He is the quote unquote killer of Maldiver, and obviously, again, his whole contentious relationship with the Brotherhood, lying, doing all these things, and now to come back. I want to see where they go with the character. So we'll see. He's I didn't like him at first, and I ended up like, you know what, the morally gray stuff and. There is a little good in there, and I'm like, all right, I'm coming around on you, but it was funny.
Plays him so straight. The actor just does an interesting thing with him that I just didn't really like at first. Where it's just like he does feel just very difficult to read. Yes. He feels very like he swaps between emotions very quickly, almost like as if it's very. And I remember at first thinking it's like,
that's a character.
This guy's kind of like. I remember at first thinking like, oh, this guy's kind of like a rookie actor, probably. At least not really doing this right, but it does fit. And watching it again, I will say, like, kind of like, oh, okay, like it clicks a lot more once you get past that. Once you get past the vault and see that flip where it's like, oh, I'm relaxed, and then like I'm back into the wasteland and everything sucks again. Kind of puts it into more perspective. But yeah, I understand why he was like probably one of the more conflicting performances.
There's also a deeper connection to him because he was in Shady Sands when things went down.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm sure. I still think maybe this is a stupid theory, but I think that there is something to him. Like there's something special with him. He's either a synth or something went wrong with him, or there is something special because he was in Shady Sands. He gets out of the fridge, which is like a weird thing. It wasn't New Vegas and Indiana Jones. Cool little reference, of course. But there has to be something weird with him. And then the Brotherhood took him in, but why would they do that? That doesn't really make any sense. So I think there will be something special with him, like some big revelation. Maybe not a sin that doesn't make much sense, but there will be something with him for sure. I think.
Yeah,
it's an Indiana Jones reference. The fridge.
Well, the fridge. Surviving the nuke in the fridge.
Which movie?
Yeah. So the Crystal Skull. So
I've never heard of that movie. What are you talking about?
That's fair. Oh, shout out! By the way, also one thing.
Yeah,
we didn't mention, but it's a small thing, but I thought was kind of wild. was that Lucy's mom. That reveal that it's
Oh yeah,
ghoul
she's
at
the real
table.
nasty
Ooh.
ghoul.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, that sucks. That's so fucking.
But
That's
why?
rough. Hmm?
Why was she still alive? That's the thing I didn't get. Why did
I mean,
they
that's
keep?
cool,
Why
though,
did they
isn't it?
keep her alive?
Well,
Yeah, it's cool, but why did they keep her alive? Because she was friends with Moldaver. So as soon as she turned feral, why didn't she kill her out of misery?
Well, I would. Yeah, I don't know. It's a big
I
question.
was wondering if that's going to be a season 2 thing because it, not that any kind of touching indicates romance, but she holds her hand at the end. I was like, and then apparently there was an interview with the actress who said like, oh, there is a closeness there, isn't there? So I'm wondering if they're.
Oh.
I caught that too.
Yeah,
I caught that too. That I was like, the Moldaver's relationship and the passion there, and that I remember that specific scene with the whole hand. Again, maybe it was light. I'm looking into it a little bit too deeper, but I felt the same thing. I was like, there's a level of closeness.
There's something there. Hank does seem like the kind of guy who would bomb lesbians. Yeah. No, I don't know. Yeah, there's something there. That's kind of the thing about the show. It's like that's the thing about the show, man. Where like I just feel like there's so many. I have so many questions and so many points of interest where it's like I want to know more about this. Like, I want to know more about these characters. I want to know more about this relationship. I want to know more about this place. I want to know more about Shady Sands. I want to know more about Moldaver. I want to know more about this vault where, like, all these cryopods are, like, who else is fucking in there? For me to care at all about any of this is a massive triumph because I'm not a TV guy. Like, I don't really, there's very few shows that I watch to this extent. Even Better Call Saul, when that was coming out, I remember watching the first season of that, and it's like, okay, next season's in 2 years, and it's like, all right, well, I'm not gonna. I'll catch this when it's over. I'm not gonna wait 2 years between seasons. I'm gonna forget fucking everything. So I'm stoked about it, and they're obviously not a perfect show by any means. Writing problems, some that I feel like could be alleviated by certain explanations. Some other ones feel a little bit more contrived and a little bit more confusing, but it's just such a fun ride, and there's like a lot of good performances, and it's just so faithful to the tone of what it's adapting that I almost feel like it's just such a high watermark for live action adaptation specifically, and I really appreciate it for that reason, because like now I feel like now I'm looking at things a little bit more optimistically. Like just generally with like my assumption now is no longer like when a video game adaptation is like announced or like coming out. It's like my immediate assumption isn't, oh, it's definitely going to suck. Like I feel like now it's like, oh, maybe it'll be great.
Well, there's good news for you because in 3 days you can watch 6 episodes of Knuckles.
Oh, what?
Oh,
that's okay.
Let's go.
Nice.
Chris, one thing you touched on, I have this in my notes and we never brought it up. I don't know if there's even a lot to say, but we're talking all about Moldaver, what's going on, what was her past. We never brought up that she's a fucking cult leader to some, or at least viewed as a cult leader figure in Vault 4, where they're calling her the Flame Mother and drinking blood and getting their tits out. I mean, like that way. And that's not explained, and that's not me being like, oh, plot. I'm like, no, that's gonna be an interesting point to explore next season. And
I would like to know what the fuck was going on, because they kind of like immediately say, oh, we're gonna let you go. We're really nice, but also we drink. But like, whose blood are you drinking if you're so nice? What's going on?
It's like symbolic for the people. Some of the mutants are like the original people from Shady Sands, which she played a big part in, right? That's how I took it anyway. I don't know.
Oh no, yeah. I think they view her as like a kind of a savior figure, is like for bringing people to Vault 4, or like giving them safe haven or something like that. But like
exactly,
it's still like a very dark ritual for something. That like it's just like, yo, this is there an orgy happening too? Like they all get naked. Yeah, I wasn't expecting to see tits, by the way, in the show. Yeah, I don't know why. I just was not expecting. But they were out. Yeah, I don't know. That's an interesting point.
Well, Chris, you kind of gave a nice summary overall in your thoughts for next season. So I guess we can kind of go around and start wrapping things up here. But Locke, hopes and dreams season 2 or any other closing thoughts? This is kind of the chance to say whatever you want.
Oh, anything I want. Okay.
Anything you want, do it.
Go Locke.
What I really loved the most about this show was Lucy. I thought that the actress did an amazing job, and I think there's a compilation on YouTube of all the okie dokies. She says she only that's like a staple of the character, but she only says it 4 times, and the evolution you see in the way she says it is so beautiful. I thought the last okie dokie, when she says that and she's so sad and angry and she leaves with the goal. What an evolution. I think that's such a brilliant job. And that's all in the writing and the acting, of course. Fantastically done. And I think the next season is pretty obvious. We're going to see New Vegas. We're going to see flashbacks, what happened to New Vegas. We're going to see characters from the game New Vegas. We're going to see Mr. House. We're going to see which ending is canonical, which is pretty cool, I think. So I can't wait. The only thing that annoys me is that we're going to have to wait 2 years or 3 years, but I can't wait. Yeah.
And most likely in no longer binge, right? Because generally Amazon's format is after the first season, they kind of they put it every week to week.
Oh, is that their actual strategy?
Yeah.
That's what Chris suggested on Summon Sign, I think.
That's what I assume. It's like, get people in for the first season so that way they're hooked and invested, and that way you can lead people with the. Yeah, I didn't realize that was actually something that they did.
Well, if they did that here week by week, it wouldn't have worked because there were episodes like episode 3, which is a little.
No, I agree.
Had to do it this way.
The first season is, I would argue, like a pilot setup almost in some way, where it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
like you could almost imagine the ending of this first season would be like the ending of a or not pilot. Literally verbatim, but like you can imagine like where that ends would be like the beginning of a show. Like this, a lot of it is kind of set up and establishing the wasteland as its own character and establishing the people in it. So, I agree. It wouldn't have worked for this time, but I do hope next time they do it, they do give us some time to digest. And if that's Amazon's strategy, then hell yeah, dude. Smart, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cog, any final thoughts? Any things that I haven't touched on that you'd like to, or just some hopes for season 2?
Yeah, man, super excited. Obviously Vegas is where they're going, and that's super cool because I just feel like everyone who's a Fallout fan is getting satiated on some level. Wherever your entry point was, you got to have some relation, some type of passion for it. I think, Locke, you said it best for me. What really nailed it for me is the hilarious, naive nature of Vault Dwellers, right? And the Lucy character and her evolution, right? And how ridiculous they are. They're just so damn ridiculous. But for me, when it hit is when Walter Goggins, he's the ghoul, now he has her, she's a prisoner, the thirst level, the hunger is kicking in. And you're in front of that contaminated water. And she had all these, I'm golden rule, I'll never be you. Right, she was resistant all that time, but then you start to see them stats drop, and she had the weak moment. And he had the most iconic line for me in the show. He was like, "I'll never be you." He's like, "Oh no, you're me. Just give it a little time." I love that line. Like he broke her, and that's when the finger breaking started, and then she started to change, kind of thing. So I want to see where her character goes because clearly at the end, then she runs off with him. There's a realization now of what's going on, and obviously, who her father really is. So I'm excited. Man. I want to see where they go with it. Again, it's a love letter. It's a love letter.
It is
for fans of this game, for this environment. And everything about this universe. So I'm super proud of them. They really did that. It was the most pleasant surprise I didn't see coming because I came into it with very okay, it'll be okay. They'll probably do some corny things. They'll mess some stuff up. You know what I mean? That the bar is continually, like we have Last of Us and all these shows, like the bar is continually being set now. And now, like Chris said, I'm in this moment now, like you've got these 2 shows. You can't come out with no video live adaptation and you trash now. Like you can't. Like we have blueprints now. How to respect the law.
It would be so fucking unacceptable at this point. Like no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like you cannot fuck anything up now and get any level of and get any level of good grace. There is that one line that the ghoul says that I thought was like a perfect love letter where he's like, first rule of the wasteland, thou shalt get sidetracked by every goddamn by all bunch of goddamn bullshit. And also shout out, because we didn't talk much about it, but shout out to the other vault dwellers too. Like I really loved when they're in line to do the election, and the guy keeps going like, I'm not gonna vote for you. And he's like, we vote in private for a reason. And then even he gives up. And there's such a docile defeatist.
Yes.
Like even when that guy's like staring at his poster and he's like, I did so much. I put up 10 posters. It's like, that's what you just gotta do. You put up 10 posters and let democracy take its course. I really loved a lot to do with like I hope we see more of the Wasteland. I hope we see more of like all of these like flashbacks to pre-war. Like all of that stuff is really cool, but like I do hope we see more of these people, because it is such a strange grounding force, and it is so funny and so hilarious. Dark in like a somber way. This has me. I wonder how much they'll be able to get through in a single. I almost feel like the show needs like several seasons to get through to everything that I would want to see, which is the highest compliment that I could pay to it. You know, like I want more. I want more immediately. And it's a shame that we're gonna have to wait fucking, I don't know, what, 30 years for the next Fallout game.
I know.
Well, don't you think this might speed it up? This has been such a success. So
better.
I think I don't think they were expecting it to be this big, because it's like huge. Look at Fallout 76 on Steam. So I think maybe they'll speed some things up. Maybe now.
Maybe
somehow.
It's definitely bigger than it. Dude, I have people in my life who are not attuned to this at all, who are texting me asking me about it, because they know that I've played Fallout. They know that I literally have a vault suit. I don't remember why I got it. I think I got it for Halloween one year. I was like, yeah, I'm going to show people up. I'm going to get a custom vault suit or whatever. I didn't wear it because it was too revealing and too form-fitting. Yeah, it's a bit much. But like I have so many people. Like I have I had an ex of mine from like a long time ago. It's like, what should I start? What game should I start? I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is crazy.
The moment it won't get.
My parents are asking about it. My parent, like hearing my dad say Pit Boy is really jarring, but like, it's happening.
It's a thing. They got to do something. They got to take advantage of it, man.
They really do.
Obsidian, somebody, all that. Y'all all over there under that banner. Y'all better make something happen. Vault-Tec do something. You can't go a whole generation. You ain't going to be no hotter than this. Take advantage.
Yeah. I'm curious what you guys think. I have a proposal for Mr. Howard and Jeff Bezos. Okay. For The Boys. Great show on Amazon Prime. They did the sideshow. Gen Z, right? Is that what's called? Lock Gen Z?
Oh, it is, but it's not as good.
Okay. Well, no. Here's my thought is between seasons, do something, you could call it like Tales from the Wasteland anthology show where we can get into some real weird shit. I want an episode about the Gary Vault. Okay. Where or like you could frame it around vaults. That's like, okay, we introduced this idea that every vault has a experiment behind it. Let's do 5 episodes that take place in 5 different vaults. You can have 5 different directors, do them different styles. One's a horror episode, one's a comedy, or you could take it outside the vault too. Cause I was thinking, I'm like, man, are they going to put like Mothership is it Mothership Zeta, right? Some alien shit in there. Ooh, there are so many threads that may not fit into the main path, but do it Black Mirror style. And do it on the off seasons.
Fire.
I agree. I think that would be sick. First of all, that would be a smart. Presuming, I mean, if they do live action, who knows? I mean, it would be smart of them to get use out of those sets. Being able to use vaults. I mean, they're all relatively the same, so like it would be a good way to capitalize or to get the most out of that set or that environment. I think that's a great idea.
I'm thinking about the one, if it was specifically 5 episodes, 5 vaults, and you could do one that's like an Office style comedy, like a mockumentary about them living in the vault.
That would be so
funny.
Like oh my God.
Anyway, Todd,
I like that a lot.
Free. That one's free. Take that.
Take it.
So I don't mind. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
When are we getting Fallout 5? That is a great question. Um,
Well,
I
we're
want
doing
it
the
now.
next gen version next week. This week.
That's true.
Today.
That's true.
Tomorrow. What?
That's true. And honestly, as I've been playing New Vegas, I do like the writing in it, but like I do find myself feeling like, man, I do wish this played like Fallout 4
Yes.
a lot. And so I don't know, a Fallout 4 replay might be necessary, especially because like, dude, I've been talking about Far Harbor for so long and wanting to play it.
Same. I never.
So
saw
I
Far
think
Harbor.
I think this will just be the opportunity after once I finish Stellar Blade, because that'll be because that's coming out like around the same time as that next gen update. I think. I'll jump into it because I'm in a Fallout mood.
Yeah, man.
It's fucked up my Spotify entirely, by the way, because now I'm like listening to just shit that makes no sense. So now like my Spotify rap for the end of the year is gonna be like Nat King Cole, Green Day, and it's like, what the fuck?
I have someone a listener of the show. They sent me. There's like these bootleg. They're bootleg, but they're very nice. A Fallout vinyl that has songs from the radio on it.
Oh, that's cool.
And it even comes with a booklet that looks, totally Fallout themed. It's amazing. So I've been spinning that recently.
Wow.
Dude,
And,
the Fallout aesthetic
nice.
is special, man. There is something about it. That's the thing too. It's like I feel like they're going to this. I feel like this show is a huge success, but like the merch that is going to come out of this is going to be fucking crazy. Because Fallout merch is just cool in general. Like there's something. Even I, as like a more casual, I'm definitely more of a casual fan than like Maddie or any like actual like expert on it is. But like even it's like I got a fucking vault suit, like I have a Pip-Boy somewhere that I saw at like Box Lunch or something, like one of those Hot Topic offshoot stores. I was like, why the fuck is this here? I'm buying this. So we'll see what happens, but like it's definitely going to be a big. They got to strike while the iron's hot with this show because they got something special here. They've always had something special, but now everybody's way more people are aware of it. So get on it, man.
Hell yeah.
Read. I'll tell you. Just put it, the Fallout 5. I told Maddie, all I got to do is Fallout 5, put a PNG on the stage. It's being worked on. Crowd goes wild. Free win, free W.
So here's the question.
Do it all the time.
So here's the question. How furious would people be if they were like, actually, Elder Scrolls 6 is not next. Fallout 5 is next. Sorry.
Oh,
man.
You're going to have to wait another 20 years.
It is what it is. Fallout looks. I'm the Elder Scrolls guy. And I had to bend the knee to Maddie. I was like, Fallout is the hottest thing moving right now. Bro, they got me playing 76 and millions of other people playing 76 right now.
I'm sorry.
That should tell you something, right? And I sit there, I'm like, yo, it's not as bad. I never even launched it. I saw it was a slideshow. It was a disaster.
Yeah.
I was like, I ain't messing with that.
It's definitely not as bad as it used to be, but it's still
right.
like,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The only reason why I did it, Chris, is because 4 next gen patch wasn't ready. Because I was going to do 4. But I was like, all right, let me just wait till the 25th.
I totally get it. I love that world. I love that map. Even in 76 is really good. I just
the map is the best thing about that map is the best Fallout map there is in 76.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
If only Xbox/Bethesda owned a developer that had experience with the IP that was getting ready to finish up a project and might be looking for.
Who said on the record that they would love to do a Fallout game?
Who said on record that they love to man. That would be amazing. They'd be a perfect fit to do Fallout 5.
That would be amazing.
Maybe they are, but they can't talk about it until Without is out, of course. So.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
That's true.
I wouldn't be surprised if Todd Howard descended, like broke through the fucking ceiling and be like, guys, sorry. I don't care I don't know what the fuck you were planning on doing, but no.
He's got the keys. It's on him. We know it's his baby.
He comes in with his fucking jacket.
Put
the leather jacket, dude. I saw him walk out of an elevator at E3 and he was wearing the jacket and I felt blessed in that moment. I'm like, I saw him in his prime form.
Yeah.
In that moment. I was like,
it really is like, it's like watching fucking Iron Man in his armor, man. There's something special about that jacket. If I saw Todd Howard out of that jacket, I wouldn't give a shit.
Dude, times I met him, he didn't have the jacket.
I would be like,
Dustin got the premium experience.
I would be like, oh, look, it's Todd Howard. And it's like, cool. But if I saw him in that jacket, it'd be like, oh my God, it's Todd Howard. There's a slight difference.
I saw him at but they used to do the Bethesda Play Days or something outside of PAX a few years ago, Cog. That was like 2018. And I saw
at that
there.
one.
Yeah,
We
I was
must have been
at
at the same one. Yeah, I was at that
we were
one.
definitely at the same PAX as in the press room.
Yes, absolutely.
For sure. But I saw him at one of those play days and he wasn't wearing the jacket. And you're exactly right, Chris. I was like, oh, that's Todd Howard. But when I saw him walk out of the elevator with the jacket, I could hear the angels singing and there was a light that shot down upon him. And I'm like, holy shit.
Definitely.
Yeah, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, and you heard a booming voice, echoey, say, "It shouted, it just works."
It just works. That's right.
Voice of Todd.
All right, guys, let's get out of here. This has been awesome. This is super cool. I told you guys beforehand. I was like, I don't want to go beat for beat. I have some notes, but I think knowing our team, we will have no problem. And sure enough, we had an awesome discussion about the episode or about the show. So thank you, everybody out there, for listening. If you're listening to this at release, that means you're a patron over at Last Stand. We appreciate you guys there supporting us. Of course, check out Finding Duke, Cog Show. You can check out Locke's work over at Retro Rewind. Yeah. And
Correct.
Rebound. So, and of course, Chris on Sacred and the various things he does. And yeah, if you're listening to this later, got to get on that. On patreon.com/laststandmedia, you can get early access to all of our Spoilercasts and all that kind of stuff. But that's it. So thanks, everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.